Hello everyone, this is Easy Natural English with Liam. So that means no script, no editing, just natural English that is a bit easier so you can get used to English in a natural way. And today I want to talk a bit about living with Corona for 1 year. So the coronavirus pandemic has been continuing for over a year now. That's a very long time. And I think we're all a bit tired of this situation. But just before I get into today's topic, I want to let you all know that I'm now doing extra podcast episodes. So if you're listening to the podcast or if you're regularly watching on YouTube, then you might know that I also have a Patreon account. So Patreon is an account, is a website where you can support people who make YouTube channels or podcasts or other things. And I have some very nice people on there who are giving me a bit of money to support my channel and to help me create more content. And before, there was nothing on there. It was just them being nice. So I wanted to give something back to them to say thank you. So I've started putting extra podcast episodes on the Patreon website. And in those episodes, I can be a bit more honest, a bit more relaxed, because usually when people listen to the podcast, they might be listening for the first time. So I have to kind of speak in a way like I'm speaking to a stranger. But if you're on the Patreon, then I know that you're regularly listening. So I'm kind of being more relaxed, talking a bit more about more about my daily life and personal things, stuff like that. So if you're interested, check out my Patreon account. There's a link for that in the description of the YouTube video and also in the description of the podcast. Anyway, today, talking about life with Corona. This has been continuing for over a year now. So I think for a lot of people, it's become a kind of normal situation. And that's one of the most dangerous things about this because, I think a lot of people at the beginning were very scared of the virus. So we were all wearing our masks. So I got very itchy nose today. Why is my nose so itchy? We're all wearing masks. We're all using the alcohol. I mean, probably most of the time just staying at home. So not even needing a mask because we just didn't want to go outside. Because coronavirus was this new scary thing. And we're all very worried about it. They said people were dying. But now, even though it's still very dangerous, maybe even more dangerous because it keeps changing, people seem to be treating, I know I feel like this too. It's very normal now. If someone says coronavirus, you're like, yeah, coronavirus, of course, it's always going on. And I think this situation is causing people to perhaps be a bit too relaxed. And, people are going outside more also because we're all bored of staying at home all the time. So maybe before, so like myself, I'm not saying I'm innocent because at the beginning, we stayed at home a lot. But slowly over time, we were thinking, well, I want to go to a restaurant. I want to go to a cafe. And they're still open in Japan, so you can do that. Of course, they have like screens and you have to wear a mask and you have to use alcohol and do all these kind of things, but you can go to them. Whereas, at the beginning, I thought, well, it's still stupid to go to a cafe. You shouldn't go to a cafe. We should all stay at home. But, when this goes on for like 1 year, you think, well, I don't want to live forever without going to a cafe again. And I think all of us, me included, we've got a bit more irresponsible. So irresponsible means not responsible, not being as careful as we should be. I think it's probably part of the reason why this pandemic just keeps continuing, because we're not really being as sort of strict and careful as we should be. But anyway, finally, at this point, looks like, we're almost getting there with the vaccination. So a lot of people have been vaccinated now. We're still having problem with getting enough vaccines. It seems like every country is kind of fighting with each other to get enough vaccines. A lot of things I keep reading online saying that we need to work together better, that countries are maybe being a bit selfish with vaccinations, with the vaccines, and we need to share them around a bit more. So who knows what's going to happen. Here in Japan, I haven't received any information from the government yet. I'm sort of waiting to hear from them. Maybe I should check myself because I think a lot of people are just getting some, I don't know, letter in the mail or something and saying, hey, it's your turn to get a vaccination. Because like here, and I think a lot of countries, they started with old people, and then maybe doctors were first, actually. Doctors and medical workers were first, and then old people. And then they're making their way down to like people with kind of health problems, and then different stages, like different levels of people. And then finally, I think a lot of countries are getting a letter in the mail and saying, hey, it's your turn. But I still haven't heard anything. So I don't know what's really happening with Japan's situation. It could be different in the big cities compared to where I live, because I live on a small island in a small town. So you're a small town on a small island. Perhaps it's different in Tokyo. I don't know if people are getting vaccines or not. I should ask some of my students. I have a lot of students in Tokyo, so I should ask them. But some of my students in other countries have had their vaccines already, and they're not medical workers, they're not old people. So it seems like some countries might be a bit faster than Japan. But yeah, it seems like a lot of us are getting vaccinated. So perhaps soon we'll be able to go outside again and, live normally. Actually, today I went to watch a movie. I went to the cinema. And of course, because of the standards at the moment, there is a gap between all the people, which is actually quite nice because, normally you go to the cinema, you have your partner or your friend or your family next to you, and then you have some stranger on the other side. But now at the moment, they're separating everyone. So there's a big gap between everyone. You kind of have your own little space. So I went to the cinema and I went to watch the movie that I talked about a while ago. A few episodes ago, I talked about how I was punched by a Japanese actress. If you haven't seen that, go and check it out. Or if you haven't listened to that, go and check it out. So I went to the movie to see my part in the movie. And actually, unfortunately, I think you can only see the back of my head because, I was just an extra. I was an extra character. I wasn't like a main part in the movie. But we did 2 whole days of filming, and it took a long time to film the parts I was in. And there were a few times where my face was towards the camera. But finally, when I saw the movie, I was saying to my wife, like, oh, that's my back. That's me laying on the floor. That's me getting hit. And kind of all the time, you couldn't really see my face. But I want to watch it on later, if I can watch it on Netflix or something, and try and pause it and see if I can catch my face in there somewhere at least. But yeah, anyway, I went there. So we saw this movie. And while I was watching the movie, I'm still kind of in this corona pandemic mode. So of course, this movie was shot a long time ago before this pandemic started. And of course, the movie is set in a world where corona doesn't exist. And I'm seeing people with no masks sitting next to each other, and still after a year living with coronavirus, when perhaps you've experienced this, you see this situation in a movie or TV or on TV, and you're thinking, no, don't sit next to each other. You can't sit next to each other. And where's your mask? Did you wash your hands? So yeah, I think it's so programmed in us at the moment that it's going to be a long time before life goes back to normal, where you feel comfortable going outside with no masks, meeting people, shaking their hand, sitting close to your friends, sitting close to strangers on transport and in the cinema and things like that. So yeah, it's definitely going to take a while for things to feel normal again, because a year is a long time. I feel very bad for children growing up during this, because for us adults, we know this is an unusual situation, but I'm always thinking about young people growing up now. If you're very young and this is just normal life for you now, walking around, don't talk to strangers, or don't even talk to your friends, you can't communicate. And of course, socializing is very important for all people, but especially for young people. So yeah, hopefully this will go away soon. So anyway, that was just a little bit of me rambling about, so rambling means talking with no real meaning. So me rambling about a year with Corona. Please don't use this as a source of reliable information. This is just a place for you to get used to listening to English. It's not supposed to be somewhere to learn about the coronavirus pandemic, because I am definitely not an expert. But yeah, hopefully you're feeling a little bit more comfortable with listening to English now. So thank you all very much for today. As I mentioned at the beginning, there's extra episodes on my Patreon account now, so check out the link for that. And also in the same place, you can see a link to take a lesson with me on italki. If you're on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe and like and comment. And if you're listening to the podcast, don't forget to follow and review on Apple Podcasts or some of the other apps, because there's still, I think, on Apple Podcasts only 2 reviews. And I ask you all the time, review, please review. So just go 5 stars, best podcast ever or something like that. You'll make me very happy. Anyway, thank you all very much, and I'll see you all back here next time.